All right, so we're recording. We'll go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're joining us from. As a reminder, I'm Haley Hardenbrook. I'm with the International Admissions Office here at Old Dominion University. Steve, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, good morning. My name is Steve Risch. I'm the Director of International Admissions here at ODU.
Right. And we do have a few people from the visa office here with us today. Catherine, did you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Catherine Yanka. I'm in the visa office, the employment specialist and office manager.
We'll probably have one more joining us later, and you'll see the visa office again next time, don't worry. But they are here today because there are a few things that are going to come up with travel in the port of entry that they will be helpful for. So again, welcome to everyone, and feel free to introduce yourself in the chat as we're going. If you have questions for us, please put them into the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. If anybody knows what the WhatsApp group is for the new students and you'd like to share that in the chat, please do so. That is for you to make use of and get to know one another there. And we'll go ahead and get started. And so before we get started, we want to do a quick poll and see if you guys have already booked flights yet. So maybe you have, oh, and Jared's here. Jared, do you want to introduce yourself real quick? Sorry, I know you just hopped on.
Yes, sorry, a couple minutes late. I'm Jared. I'm the assistant director of the visa office. I don't know if Catherine explained much, but we're like sort of like sister office to international admissions. That's kind of like how I like to phrase it. So we do a lot of the visa, immigration, travel stuff once you get here to the US.
And we're actually located in the same suite. So if you were to come visit us when you first arrive, you would see our office and you'd get to see our visa office friends. Great. All right, I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll. So it's just a quick question. Have you booked your flights yet to the US? Yes, not yet. I'm assuming nobody's in the US already, or you probably wouldn't be at this webinar. But I know we're getting close to the start of the semester. So, all right. Looks like about 40% of you have booked flights, about 60 not yet. Okay, great. And hi, Faisal. I see Faisal's here from Pakistan. Welcome. Today from Sri Lanka, from Nigeria. Great. Alejandra from Ecuador. Okay, great. Thanks for here are the results if you want to see. About a third have booked your flight, and two-thirds have not yet. Okay, great. So today we're talking about travel in the port of entry. So what is the port of entry? What do I mean when I say that? It's basically it's the place that you request permission to enter the United States. So that is usually the first place that you land in the United States, although there are a few special pre-clearance sites that you may go through, like if you're coming through Canada or Ireland. But generally, it's the first place that you land in the United States, and that's where you are requesting permission to enter. It's where you go through customs and immigration. So these processes can take a long time. We recommend that I say at least 2 or 3 hours at your port of entry, just in case you need that much time. So as you're booking flights, if you have not yet, keep that in mind because some of these processes can take a while, especially if there's long lines. Now, your port of entry does not have to be Norfolk. Norfolk is your final destination, but you do not have to fly directly from an international location to the Norfolk airport. So most of you will probably go through Washington, D.C., or New York City, or maybe Atlanta, Georgia. That's actually the biggest port of entry in the United States. So you'll probably go through one of those airports first and then continue on to Norfolk. Now, this is where they just do a routine inspection of every single person who is entering the United States, whether you're a US citizen or not. So it is a routine inspection. They're going to ask you questions about your purpose of travel, which for you is to be a student. They're going to look at your documents and they may do some biometrics such as fingerprinting or facial scanning, and this is all completely normal. So CBP, if I say that, that stands for U.S. Custom and Border Protection. These are the officers that control the U.S. borders. So these are the people who are going to be talking to you at the borders and looking at your documentation. Now they've made their own video called You Have Arrived that explains the port of entry process. So I'm just going to play a few clips from it to give you an idea so you can see what it looks like and get a feel for it. So this will just take a few seconds.
Bienvenido, willkommen, 欢迎, bienvenue, dobro pожаловать, 안녕, Welcome to the United States! We realize many of you have traveled a great distance, so we want to streamline the entry process so you can reach your final destination. This short video will help explain the process.
Hi, welcome to the United States.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers take your safety and that of our country very seriously. They've been safeguarding our nation's borders for more than 200 years and continue to be the first line of defense.
How are you today?
Oh, very good.
Your immigration status will be confirmed and is subject to further review.
How long were you out of the country?
1 week.
We may also need to inspect your baggage or personal items. If you don't understand something, just ask. Our goal is to help get you on your way as soon as possible.
U.S. citizens this way, please.
Follow the designated signage for U.S. citizens and lawful residents, as well as those for visitors from other countries.
Okay, and so there's more. I'll put the link to the video in the chat here just a little bit later. But if you keep watching, it'll show you what the port of entry looks like and what you can expect as you're going through customs and the port of entry. So I highly recommend that everybody watch this video.
Place your completed declaration form into
Sorry.
the front cover of your passport. When it's your turn, a CBP officer will call you to the counter to review your documents and may ask a few questions, such as,
What is the purpose of your trip?
vacation.
Business.
Medical conference.
Easy enough, right? You may also have your fingerprints and photo taken. Say cheese.
Why'd you take my mommy's fingerprints?
Good question. So make sure somebody isn't pretending to be your mom and to help keep you and your family safe.
If you have anything
Okay, so there's more, like I said, but I'll share the link to that later and you can watch it. Okay, so part of the port of entry as you're going through, you may have heard the term secondary inspection. So this is where after they first question you, they may decide they want to pull you back into a private area for more questioning or searching. Now this only happens to 2% of people who go through the port of entry. So the odds that you get pulled into secondary are very, very small. So I just want to start by saying that, okay? But I know that students have questions about it and concerns, so we do want to address what would happen if you get pulled into secondary. Now, this could be a random selection also. So it does not necessarily mean that there's anything wrong or that they have any concerns. It could just be every so often they have to pull someone into secondary as part of a routine inspection. So as long as you answer their questions, they might let you go and you're on your way in 5 minutes. Okay, so don't get nervous. It could just be random. In most cases, if they have pulled you in, it's because there's maybe something incorrect in SEVIS or they have a question about something that they see in your immigration record. And a quick call to the visa office will clear it up and they'll let you go on your way. So this does happen. If you are held in secondary, we just want you to be aware you will not have access to your phone or your personal belongings. You might not be able to make any calls. They might be able to make calls for you, but you might not be able to make them yourself. And all of your belongings are subject to search. So what do I do if I get pulled into secondary? The first thing is to stay calm. Again, it could just be matter of routine, or it could just be, hey, we have this minor question about something we see in your immigration record. A quick call to the school is going to clear it up, and it's not a big deal, okay? So stay calm, and you're just going to answer the questions that they ask you, but do know who to call if it becomes necessary. And that answer is basically the visa office. So this is their phone number, their office line. So if it's during regular business hours, which in the United States means Monday through Friday, 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 p.m., you're going to call just their normal office phone number, which is right here. If it is after hours, if you're traveling in the evening or the middle of the night, or it's on a weekend, a Saturday or Sunday, the visa office does have this emergency immigration number that you can call, or you can request CBP call for you, and someone will answer and help, okay? And then know what your rights are if you're pulled into secondary. So there are things that you have to do, but you also do have rights. So you can decline to answer any questions about your religious or political beliefs, but just be aware as a non-immigrant, they could then deny you entry to the United States if you choose not to answer, okay? They do not have to let you in, or it may lead to additional questioning, so just be aware. If you wear a religious head covering, you do not have to take that off when you first go through the security screening, but if an alarm goes off and they pull you aside and then they ask you to remove it, you can request that you are taken to a private area and that someone of the same gender does the removal. You do have the right to remain silent and not answer any questions that are put to you in secondary, but you should just say out loud, I'm exercising my right to remain silent, okay? You always have the right to contact your home country's consulate or embassy. which the closest one is probably in Washington, D.C. We, do not answer anything that you don't understand. If you don't understand what they're asking, do not sign anything, especially if you do not understand. So they might ask you to sign something. Well, it's a long story, but basically if you're not sure what it means, ask for a translator. You always have the right to ask for a translator, okay? And you are always allowed food, water, restroom breaks, okay? But again, this only happens to like 2% of people. And even if you're pulled in, it doesn't mean anything's wrong. It could be routine. So try not to stress too much about this. Now I'm going to turn it over to Steve for a minute because he actually did a tour of the secondary inspection and he can tell you a little bit more about what it's like.
Yeah. Thank you, Haley. Yes, a couple months ago, I had the opportunity to attend a workshop that CBP provided to university staff that work with international students. And it was a tour of the immigration facilities at Dulles, Washington Dulles Airport, which is a few hours from our campus here. But and many of our students do arrive into Dulles. So it was good to become familiar with the process, meet the head of CBP operations there at Dulles. He's a very nice guy. He showed us around, gave us a tour, showed us the general inspection area, which was rather crowded at the time. And we did go over secondary. We went back to the secondary area and he explained very clearly that usually, less than 2% get referred to secondary. It is random. They do randomly select some individuals to go back to secondary, but the majority of the time, especially with students, almost all the time, it's usually something that isn't clear on your SEVIS record or on your I-20. It may be a date that may not be correct, or your birth date, or spelling of a name, something like that, where they have to clarify that. And they don't have time to do that in the general inspection area because they just want to keep it moving. And so they send you to secondary. And I, depending on how many individuals are referred at the time, but expect that it would take anywhere from 5 to maybe 15 or 20 minutes to clear the secondary inspection. And usually they just try to look at other information in your record to clarify, whatever question that may have come up. If they cannot clarify it, then their first line of action is to contact a designated school official from the university, a DSO. So they will call the general visa office number. They may or may not have access to that. So I would certainly recommend that everyone travel with that information for the visa office phone number, and also the after hours emergency number. Someone will pick up and we will, respond. This has happened a number of times, and it's, always just something that needs to be clarified or double checked or corrected. If there are errors that need to be corrected, there is a process for correcting that. They still let you in, and usually you have, I think, 30 days to get that corrected. The visa office would, of course, work with you to get that all squared away, and so it should be no issue at all. But yeah, usually for students and the primary inspection area, usually for students, they may ask questions that may be related, especially if you have an assistantship or a position that's been offered or part of your admission offer. They may ask questions related to that, but they're usually pretty straightforward, simple yes/no questions. Just keep it brief in your responses. Don't try to over-explain or overreach, or but otherwise it's a pretty quick and straightforward process. After the inspection, you do have to collect your luggage to go through the customs. So just remember that as well.
Yeah, don't forget your suitcase. That would not be good. All right. Thanks, Steve. Um, One more thing we wanted to share about electronic device searches. So you do have to comply with these. If they ask to search your cell phone or your laptop, they are able to do that. If you have it password protected, you can deny them the password. But again, as a non-immigrant, they could say, well, then they could, force you to turn around and leave the US. Not always, but so you may want to comply with that. If you have to enter a password, I just recommend doing it yourself instead of telling them your password. Or if you have to tell them your password, maybe just changing it afterwards. Um, a tip is to keep your electronic devices in airplane mode, and don't really store anything actually like to your laptop, because they are not allowed to search anything that's stored only in the cloud. So if you're only on airplane mode and they're not connected to the internet and they can't search the cloud, they cannot access whatever you have there. Now, sometimes they will take your devices for longer searches, forensic searches, or they might say, okay, we're going to release you from secondary, but we're going to hold on to your laptop. If they do that, ask for a written custody receipt. They have to give you this. So that way you have proof that they held onto your device. Usually they keep it up, maybe potentially up to 30 days, and they'll return it to you. But make sure you're getting that written receipt. Now, everything we've said about electronic devices and everything in secondary, just so you know, this is not to be taken as legal advice. We are not immigration attorneys. We are not lawyers. You should always seek the advice of a licensed attorney if you have questions, but this is just for general information purposes. Before we move on, does anybody have questions about, secondary or searches or rights at the port of entry or anything like that? And we'll have plenty of time for questions at the end. You're welcome to put it in the Q&A, or you can just unmute yourself if you'd like. Okay, I put some links in the chat that have a little bit more information about your rights at the port of entry, and they are available in some other languages as well. Okay, so we'll keep going. So Form I-515A, this again doesn't happen very often, but sometimes if there is like a minor issue, maybe with your documentation, or you forgot to print off your I-20 or something and you don't have it, they might say, okay, we're going to let you into the US temporarily for 30 days, and we're going to give you this form, and you have 30 days to respond and get us the missing information. So if you are given one of these, Form I-515A, just let the visa office know right away. They will help you respond to it. Jared, is there anything that you wanted to say about this or anything that we've said so far?
I mean, just that as soon as you get this, let us know. Normally, I believe we get a notification as well when you have one. I think I'm a little rusty. It's been a while since I've had one. But yeah, when they do come, just let us know. They now let you respond to these completely online. They used to not. So that's a pretty straightforward process to respond to. But again, just let us know. We're happy to help you out, happy to get you the updated I-20 or whatever they need for you to respond to.
Jared. I did see a question that came in the chat. So Faisal, is it fine to go to Dallas, Texas first? Yes, that is totally fine. So Norfolk, Virginia you don't have to come straight here when you enter the United States. Your port of entry or, wherever you travel to in the United States first is fine. Or you're allowed to enter the US, 30 days before your I-20 start date. So if you're going to Texas for a few weeks to see a friend, that's totally fine. You are not required to report here right away, or to travel straight to Norfolk. So that's okay. Okay. So I just quickly wanted to mention a redress number. If let's say you get pulled into secondary, or you're having a bunch of issues boarding your flight, or you get a lot of question and you notice that this starts happening a lot as you're traveling in and out of the United States, you can apply for something called a traveler redress number. And they give you a special number that's just for you, so that when you start booking tickets, flights and stuff, it should help ease your travel process, because maybe your name is similar to somebody on like a government watch list or something, or you always get pulled aside for questioning. So you should only apply for one of these. You would not be applying now, your first time coming to the US. You would only do this after multiple times traveling to and from the US and you have issues. But I just want you to be aware, if you notice that this is something that's happening consistently, you can apply for a redress number. And like when you're booking your ticket like this, you would see you're asked for a redress number normally when you're booking a plane ticket. So it's just you would provide that number at that time. Okay. So what do I need when I'm traveling? So first things first, make sure that all of your documents are in your carry-on luggage and not your checked baggage. Because if they're in your checked baggage and that bag gets lost, or maybe it's over there on the luggage carousel and you can't access it, you need everything right there with you. So, your handbag, your backpack, whatever it is that you have on you at all times, make sure that's where you have everything. And you do need to print it off. So I would recommend actually having physical copies and not having it just stored electronically on your phone or on your laptop, okay? So the first thing is a printed copy of your I-20 or your DS 2019 if you're a J student, the one that you have actually signed. So you remember you're supposed to print those and sign it yourself with a pen, okay? So that printed copy is what you should be traveling with. You will, of course, need your passport. Your passport must be valid for at least the next 6 months after you're entering the US. If it's going to expire within 6 months of trying to enter, they may not let you enter the country. Okay, so make sure you renew your passport before you come if it's going to expire soon. And then, of course, you'll need your valid visa. Unless you're a Canadian citizen, Canadians, you do not need a visa, but everyone else will need their valid visa and their passport. If you're on the F4J status, you should also have your SEVIS fee payment receipt that you paid before you went to your SEVIS interview, or sorry, your visa interview. If you're arriving late, you should have that letter from our office that's giving you permission to arrive after the start of the semester, because otherwise they might say, oh, your I-20 start date's already passed, so how are you able to enter now? And that might cause questions, but if you already have that letter from us saying that you have permission to enter late, it should solve that issue. And the final thing is a completed declaration form. So this is for customs. So for non-immigrants, this is still actually a paper form, I believe, that you have to fill out. They will give this to you on the plane before you land, and you'll fill it out. So if you're bringing in food, agricultural products, things like that from home, you usually have to declare that, because I know sometimes, you like to bring food from home because it's familiar, it's comfortable. There's a treat in there from mom and dad, and that's fine. But sometimes you have to declare that on your customs form. Okay, so you do have to fill out one of these forms. You'll put it into your passport, and then when you go through customs, you'll show that. Okay, so these are things you should definitely have. You may also want to have, just to be safe, a printed copy of your admission letter from ODU. I mean, again, an I-20 is proof that you've been admitted, but sometimes they want to see just your admission letter or proof of enrollment. Actually, sorry, I take that back, because you won't be enrolled until after you're on campus. Ignore that one. If you have an assistantship or a scholarship, that letter is probably a good idea to have printed out. And then anything else maybe that you were asked for when you obtain your visa. So sometimes you're asked for like a study plan, or what is your research plan, or what is your faculty advisor's CV. If you were asked for any of those things in order to get your visa, it's a good idea to travel with those as well, just in case. Okay. So I-94, you probably heard this term thrown around. It's another immigration document, but this one is not created until after you enter the US. So this is actually created by CBP, Custom and Border Protection. So when they're doing their inspection of you, the routine inspection, at customs, they are filling this in. And so they say it's available right away for you to access on their website. In my experience, it usually takes 2 or 3 days to show up. But usually within 2 or 3 days, if you log onto their website and you go and put in your information, you should be able to find your I-94 record, which it looks like this. And this is proof of legal entry, that you entered the country legally. You just do want to make sure that all the information on it is correct. If you see an error, especially if the class of admission is wrong, you need to contact the visa office right away, because they can work with CBP to get this corrected for you. Because basically what's on here is, those are the rules of the visa status that you have to follow. So if this is incorrect, it needs to be corrected right away. Jared, anything to add about I-94 corrections? You will need to provide this to Jared's office after you arrive.
Yeah, well, we have the check-in form on the international portal that the I-94 is a required document to upload, so you won't be able to submit it without having an I-94. Um, if there are ever any issues or you notice anything strange, please don't hesitate to ask us about it. We have an email box for CBP that we regularly email when there needs to be I-94 corrections. The most often one I usually see is like name typos with your name, things like that. Um, so yeah, any of that, if anything is wrong, I know the yellow box is the most important part with the date of entry and the class of admission and whatnot. But even if it's like name issues, just let us know and we can email and get that corrected. I had one that I just corrected a couple weeks ago that it was wrong because the airline had the student's name listed wrong, and CBP said this is the name we got from the airline. So that's interesting.
Surprised they were able to board the plane with the
Yeah, I'm surprised we were even able to pull an I-94 altogether, but it
interesting.
worked somehow. But yeah, so yeah, don't hesitate to reach out to us. If you have trouble accessing an I-94, you're always welcome to email us as well. We're happy to help with that.
Thanks, Jared. So you will have a new one of these each time you enter the United States because it's a new, most recent entry. So that's why you just have to make sure you're actually gonna have to go in and print this off each time you enter the US, okay? Because it'll update the next time that you travel. This website, you can also find a travel history if you see that. And that one might not be exact, and it's okay if there's errors on the travel history because it's not exact records, but it kind of gives you a general idea of your travel in and out of the United States based on your passport. But again, that's separate and it's okay if that's incorrect. You're looking for your I-94 electronic record is what you're looking for. Okay. So how do I get to campus? So basically you are responsible for finding your way to campus. Unfortunately, we do not offer airport pickup. There might be some student organizations that will do it for you if you reach out, but as the university, we do not do official airport pickups. So you will need to make sure you know how to get to campus once you arrive. The most common methods of transportation are going to be some kind of ride sharing app like Uber or Lyft or getting a taxi cab. From the airport, you can do private transport if you pre-book it ahead of time. Here's the link. But there are no buses that take you from the airport to our campus, and there is not a metro system in our city. So just want you to be aware you're not going to be able to catch a bus or the metro. If you are coming by train from the Amtrak train station, there actually is a bus that will bring you to campus. But the airport, again, a reminder, is about 20 minutes away by car, and the train station's about 15 minutes away from campus. If you're arriving at the airport, there is an information center in the main lobby where you can ask questions. It's staffed with volunteers, and you can probably ask, like, how do I get to my Uber? Where do I go? Or they might even have a phone. They can let you make a phone call if you need help with transportation, figuring that out. They are usually very friendly and can help you with that. Okay, arrival date. So when should I arrive? So we've been getting this question a lot. There are two different dates on your I-20. So there's the first day of classes, which is August 24th, and then your I-20 start date is actually a week earlier, August 17th. So that week, coming a week early gives you time to do all these check-ins for visa office, the various orientations. You probably have a departmental orientation. You might have a new student orientation. You might have different things going on in that first week. So we do recommend, arriving a week ahead of classes. And then, making sure you're having time to adjust to the time zone change. Maybe it's probably a huge time change difference for many of you. But learning your way around campus, make sure you've settled into your housing, that you have sheets and a pillow and some of the basic, you know how to find food. You want to make sure that you've handled your basic necessities before you're having to worry about, now where do I go for orientation, or you need to make sure that you are moved in and settled. So I do recommend arriving a few days ahead of whatever your first required orientation is. If you have a job on campus, like a graduate assistantship, you also will need to arrive early to do your employment paperwork, which Catherine's going to be your friend for that one, because you do have to fill out this paperwork before you can start working. So don't think you're going to arrive, if my assistantship starts August 1st, don't think that you can arrive July 31st and just the next day start your assistantship. Okay, you need to arrive early to plan time to do your employment paperwork and everything else that you need to do first. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're thinking about when should I arrive on campus. Now, the very possible earliest date that you can arrive is 30 days before your I-20 start date. And that's just the earliest you can enter the United States. And now it is 30 days, not 1 month. Okay, so be very careful about that. So if your I-20 start date is August 17th, 30 days before that is July 18th, not July 17th. If you try to enter on July 17th, they might turn you around and send you back home because that's 31 days. Okay, so just be very, very careful. Make sure you're counting the days. The latest you can arrive, you really need to be here by the first day of classes, which is August 24th. If you are any later than that, it does require special permission. So please, please, please try to be here at the very latest by August 24th if you can't be here for that week ahead for those onboarding activities. If you think you're going to arrive late, you have to submit a request to our office in writing. Here's our email address. We'll give you a letter with permission to arrive late. So please send us an email and explain the circumstances if you think you're not going to be able to arrive by the first day of classes. In extreme cases, let's say, you're not going to be able to arrive within that first week or two of classes, maybe your visa's been delayed. You can defer your admission up to 1 year from your original admit term. So if you need to, just be aware you can move your admission back. You'll still have that offer of admission and it's good for 1 year. Okay, so you just need to email us about that as well. Okay. A few other travel tips. Recommend booking the flight after you've received your visa, just to make sure that you do get the visa and that you know the timing of that. Present the correct visa at the port of entry. So I know this sounds silly, but this is actually a big one where a student will just hand over their passport instead of opening it to the visa page. And for many of you, you might actually have a tourist visa in there. Maybe you've been to the US before as a tourist, you have a B1, B2 visa in there. If the CBP officer is flipping through your passport and the tourist visa is the first one they come to, and that's what they stamp and that's what they put on your I-94 record, that means you're here as a tourist. You can't just magically be a student now. It's the visa that you use to present at the port of entry. Those are now the rules that you have to follow. So if you accidentally show a tourist visa instead, that can be a huge problem. So in some cases, students have to leave the US and come back in showing the student visa. So it can cause huge problems. So just, go ahead and open up your passport to that page with your student visa and hand it to them, okay? Make sure you're not carrying any prohibited items. So I would go to this link here. Again, it's mostly referring to agricultural products or medicine. If you have a prescription medicine, there are some rules about that. So make sure you know what they are. It needs to be in the original prescription bottle. You shouldn't really have more than 3 months supply on you. So, make sure you're following the rules, and so you don't get pulled aside for some of these extra questioning, or they might, take it from you. I do recommend there are certain things that I would purchase at home before you come because it's probably more expensive in the United States. For example, cold weather clothing can get cold here in the winter. If you're coming from a country with mostly warm weather, I would get a winter jacket or something before you come if possible. Things like laptop, mobile phones are probably going to be cheaper in your home country. Make sure you have those converters. So if your electrical outlet prong looks different, which for most of you it probably will, make sure you're buying that adapter so that you can plug in your electronic devices to our outlets here. I don't know what our outlets are called. Do you guys know? There's a number or a letter associated with all the different outlets. I can't remember what the US outlet is called, but it's 2-pronged. Sometimes there's a third one on the bottom. Anyway, you can look it up on the internet. Okay. Another tip, you can actually look up wait times at Customs and Immigration ahead of time at this website here. Now, this isn't for every single airport, but it's the major ones. They will give you an approximation of how long it's going to take you to get through the process. So as you're, when you just land and you want to see maybe what the wait time is going to be, or maybe when you're booking flights and you want to get an idea of what is the average wait time at this airport, you can look at this website. And then the final tip again, know who to call if there are issues and actually write that number down on a piece of paper because again, they might take your cell phone. You might not be able to call the visa office yourself. You might have to say, here is their number, please call them for me. So make sure that you have written it down on a piece of paper instead of just having it saved in your cell phone. Okay, a few resources, reminders, make sure you're looking at your admitted student guide. There's a visa and travel page with more detail about what to expect as you're traveling. Here is that immigration emergency line for the visa office. Again, write it down on a piece of paper, write down their normal business office number as well. And you can be visiting your My ODU portal to give you your customized checklist of what you still need to do before you arrive. Okay. Oh, your tip of the week. Here it is. Oh, Catherine, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I grabbed a web link for checking your outlet questions.
Oh,
Put it
perfect.
in the chat, so
That's helpful. Thank you so much.
it shows what they look like too, so
Oh,
you have
good.
a better idea.
Thank you. Okay. Your tip of the week is to rub Big Blue's belly for good luck. So in our web center, remember Big Blue again is our mascot. He's the lion who wears the crown. There is a statue of him in our student center, the web center, and they say if you rub his belly, it brings you good luck. So, maybe before an exam or a big presentation, go rub his belly, you'll have good luck. All right, so that's our tip of the week. All right, and now is your chance for questions. So, what questions do you guys have? Any, travel, border entry, or really any questions at all? You have, you have admissions office here and visa office. So, anything? And you're welcome to unmute yourself or put it into the chat or the Q&A. No? Well, I'll share my direct email address in here if you think of anything. We do have coming up in 2 weeks is our final Crown Countdown webinar. I cannot believe the summer is almost entirely past already. But this is the big one. So this is the one where we really, really encourage all students to come to this one. This is where we're going to have all the important offices on the call with us, including the visa office again. We're going to talk about all the important things you need to do when you arrive, such as the immigration check-in, employment paperwork, all of that fun stuff. So please, please, please log in and join us for that one. The registration link is here on the screen. I'll put it in the chat as well. And if you have 2 minutes, please complete our feedback survey from today. Let us know what topics we didn't touch on that you would like or what we could have done better. Okay, so I see a question. So like usually when you enter, how much time does the procedure take? That's a good question. It's really hard to say. It just depends on the day. Maybe you arrived right at the end of 2 other major international flights, and so you have to get behind a whole line of 300 passengers. Maybe you arrive in the middle of the night and you're the only international flight that's landed, and so you just breeze right through. It really does differ. So I would look at that website that has the average wait times, and you can see at the airport, what is the average amount of time. And I'll put that link in the chat. Alejandra, yes, the recording of this is on our admitted student guide page. I will put that link in the chat as well.